Taking aim and talking tough, Washington and Pyongyang in a war of words after North Korea's leader threatens a missile strike on U.S. territory. Colorful language from Trump and Kim Jong-Un. So where is all this headed? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Richelle Carey. For years, the West has put up with North Korea's threats and colorful prose. But now the U.S. president is using similar language and the world is forced to take notice. All prompted by Kim Jong-un's plans for missile strikes on a tiny island in the Pacific, the U.S. territory of Guam. Donald Trump immediately warned of a fire and fury response, but says that might not have been tough enough. He's now telling Pyongyang it should be very nervous about doing anything to America or its allies. North Korea says sound dialogue with Trump is not possible and that its nuclear weapons of justice will mercilessly hammer the nuclear of tyranny. China, Pyongyang's closest ally, wants both sides to tone down the rhetoric and show strength. We have lots to discuss. First, though, this report from our correspondent Carey, who is gauging the mood in Guam.
Perfect white beaches, tropical lagoons and gorgeous sunsets. Guam is every holidaymaker's dream destination, or at least it was.
It's a game changer that this guy is actually, threatening to launch missiles our way.
North Korea's threat to attack Guam with missiles has put this tiny island in the Marianas Archipelago on edge. And while the governor's security advisor is taking the threat seriously, he questions the motive behind North Korea publicly revealing its strike plans to send 4 missiles across Japan to a target 40 kilometers off Guam's coast.
You never tell the enemy what you're going to do, so thank you for letting us know what you're going to do. We'll now prepare. So, it may be just a chess game here.
Guam has been a military base for the US since before Japanese occupation during the Second World War. Residents are concerned about North Korea's warning, but few are leaving the island.
They threaten us, bring it. The U.S. is strong. I'm pretty sure we got them.
Per head of population, Guam has the highest number of military representatives in the United States Defense Forces. Guamanians are US citizens, although they don't have the right to vote.
If Guam was not American soil, I believe that you can surmise that, in fact, it would not be the initial target.
Which explains why US bases in the Philippines and Japan have not been targeted. Tourism hasn't yet been affected by the threat either. So far, arrivals for August are up 5%. Koreans and Japanese make up about 90% of visitor numbers, and there have been few cancellations.
When you take a look at Japan and you take a look at Korea, they're so much closer to North Korea that, coming to Guam, we still have a little bit of time if they do decide to launch anything.
About 1,065 seconds, according to North Korea's threat.
North Korean state media reports that a plan for a missile attack against Guam will be ready for the leader, Kim Jong-Un, within days. But South Korean intelligence says there's no indication the North is preparing for an attack, adding credence to the argument that this is just an attempt by Kim to force the US into talks. Carey, Al Jazeera, Guam.
Let's bring in our guests now. In Seoul via Skype, we have Kim Jong-Un. He is a former soldier in North Korea who defected in 2010. He's now a member of the NGO Teach North Korean Refugees. From Paris, Se-Woong, political commentator and managing editor of Korea Expose. Also in Seoul, Andrei, Lankov, professor of Korean Studies at Kookmin University. Welcome to all of you. So, U.S. President Donald Trump has started the morning on Twitter, particularly with more, I guess you could characterize them as threats. I want to read the tweet that he posted this morning. It says, military solutions are now fully in place, locked and loaded, should North Korea act unwisely. Hopefully, Kim Jong-un will find another path. So, litigating this on Twitter, I guess my first question will go to you, Se-Woong. What does this say about where this all might be headed?
Well, I don't think anybody really has a crystal ball at the moment, but I think we have seen wide consensus among experts that this indeed is a war of words and nothing else. Because if you are to look at the potential casualties and the consequences that would arise of any kind of military conflict between the two Koreas as well as the United States would be just extraordinary. And of course, Seoul has perhaps the most to lose from this potential conflict, with its capital being very closely located to the border with North Korea. So I think everybody is urging caution behind the scene. But then again, war is a kind of thing that no one can truly predict.
Having said that, I think that's a great point, Andrei. It is unpredictable, Andrei. So having said that, even if this is a war of words, is there still a danger in these types of words?
Well, there is some danger, I would say, but not much. Because sometimes I wonder whether Donald Trump has secretly attended some workshop for the young aspiring diplomats in Pyongyang. Because what he is doing right now is exactly what the North Koreans have been doing for decades. All this type of bellicose, exaggerated rhetoric, it's something which used to emanate from Pyongyang pretty much, well, 24 hours a day for years and years and years. However, as it has been said, a military confrontation is going to be extremely costly. And if you look very carefully to, I would say, in fine print, when North Koreans are making threats, they always threaten to attack, to destroy, to annihilate if they are attacked. And now the American side says exactly the same. We will revenge, find fury if they act unwisely. So both sides are basically saying, if you dare to touch us, you will pay the price. In the past, such statements were done by the North Koreans, now by the Americans, but frankly, having seen some similar developments so many times in 3 decades, I don't worry at all.
Okay, so Andrei, as you said, yes, this is the type of language we've seen out of North Korea for years. Is there anything productive about the U.S. president now using the same type of language?
Surprising, as I have said, I wonder, maybe he has secretly gone to Pyongyang, and I don't see what does American side gain from using such extra tough language. Because it's not going to impress North Korea. It might probably help to create panic among the American public who take it way too seriously. It might probably help to terrify American allies, but it's not going to produce any serious impact on the North Koreans.
You said taking way too seriously. Tweeting about nuclear war, can you really take that too seriously?
But because they don't mean nuclear war. They are talking about nuclear war, but they have not the slightest idea to start it. Not the slightest intention. And even if you look at all kind of military movement, nothing indicates anything unusual in and around Korea. But it's not basically the most important thing. Do you know that, for example, roughly every second year, North Koreans promise that in near future they will make Seoul into a sea of fire? Or right now, I'm sitting in your studio located in the building of South Korea's largest newspaper. Roughly 3 years ago, North Koreans promised to wipe this office from the face of Earth, because this newspaper.
So I hear what you're saying. I got what you're saying, that they both talk big, that there's a lot of big talk. I got that. Okay. So Ken, let me ask you, how do you think this type of language is being received in North Korea, and specifically how is this being received by Kim Jong-Un?
I think maybe now is Trump says he's going to attack North Korea, and Kim Jong-Un says that he's going to shoot ballistic missile around Guam, but it's not going to happen. I think, for example, when I was in North Korea in 1993. That was really serious happening in North Korea. At that time, it's Clinton, Prime Minister Clinton said we're going to start war and also nuclear inspection, but it's not happened. But at that time, North Korea did not have a nuclear weapon and even ballistic missile. But nowadays, they have a nuclear weapon and ballistic missile, also even almost successful. So if Trump is going to start maybe attack to North Korea, it's really serious problem. Not only North Korea, it's China and Russia, and yeah, something so on. So it's not going to happen, I think.
Ken, I'm glad you brought up a little bit of history to kind of set the table for how we got here. Let's look back going back to 1994. In 1994, North Korea agreed to dismantle plutonium-producing reactors and replace them with technology which could not be used to make weapons-grade material. Then, in 2002, Pyongyang admitted that it had a secret nuclear weapons program. 3 years later, it agreed to give it up, but the six-party talks aimed at making that happen. Those talks broke down in 2008. Then in 2011, Kim Jong-Un succeeded his father and carried out his first nuclear test just a year later. Then this year, North Korea has fired 18 test missiles, including 2 intercontinental ballistic missiles. So, Se-Woong, I want to ask you, was there an opportunity lost over these years when back in 1999, it seemed that the Clinton administration was very, very close to sort of reining in North Korea, and then the Bush administration took a completely different tack, basically isolating them. Do you think that was a missed opportunity?
Well, it was certainly a missed opportunity precisely because from the perspective of North Korea, America did not follow through on its bargain. If you actually want to look back on the history, what happened during the six-party talks in the 2000s, there was a general agreement that the nations would agree to fund the construction of a light water nuclear reactor in North Korea for peaceful use, and in return, North Korea would give up its ambition to build a nuclear arsenal. And then what came was actually a series of financial sanctions by Washington, which essentially turned North Korea away from the negotiation table, and it kind of got us to where we are today. And in South Korea, over the last 9 years, we had conservative administrations that had no interest in reopening negotiation. And just as we have a new liberal president taking power, showing intention to perhaps return to the negotiation table and try to bring North Korea to dialogue, and now we have this war of words happening. So certainly we can say that there has been missed opportunities.
Ken, does Kim Jong-un have any motivation, any incentive to get to the table to actually have negotiations?
Yeah, I agree with. I think Kim Jong-un wants to negotiate between USA and North Korea. That's why he make nuclear weapon and ballistic missile. That's the first reason. But another reason, he wants to control the North Korean civilians by this military action. Because North Korea now is really bad economic situation and many bad happening in now. For example, when I was in North Korea, I felt very proud when the regime tested ballistic missile and nuclear weapon. So he attempted to control North Korean civilians. It's North Korean civilian. Kim Jong-un is really nervous. North Korean civilians know what's happening outside the world.
Ken, let me ask you about that. What do you think the average North Korean knows about what's actually happening?
Happening for this situation?
Yes.
Yeah, I think not all of the people, many people already know the United States is a strong country in the world, and also if we start a war, we're going to disaster. They already know, but they don't have a choice to run away. They don't even have a passport and how to run away from the North Korea. So yeah, I think, for example, when I was military service, I thought if we start a war, I have to fight USA and even other enemy as a Japanese enemy state, because we don't have a choice. Many people thought that, I think.
Okay. Se-Woong, Donald Trump has threatened, basically, at least on Twitter, to start a trade war with China if China, as he sees it, doesn't do more to rein in North Korea. How much pull does China actually have to rein in North Korea? Is China too financially involved now with North Korea to really put any real pressure on them?
Because China, according to Korean statistical data, there are North Korean trade, total trade, I don't know how to say, total trade dollar. It's about almost 91% of trade between China, which means North Korea only have business between China. So, but China right now, China doesn't want to collapse the North Korea, and even some ignore the North Korean economic sanction, because if collapse the North Korea, there are so many refugees across the border. That's the first serious problems. And another thing is that they don't like. That's just my personal opinion. They don't like Western people move up to near the border. So that's why they don't.
Okay.
They push the sanction. And last things I want to say, actually, the trade between China and North Korea, it's not fair. It's not fair trade. I mean, actually, what I can say, I want to say, is that it's not trade. It's actually China took the North Korean some goods.
Okay.
It's not equal.
So Se-Woong, let me bring you into this. Do you think that China has the pull, the motivation, the incentive to try to rein in North Korea? Because that's kind of the place we always go with this conversation is, get China to make North Korea do X, Y, and Z. Is that realistic? It hasn't worked so far.
Well, that's certainly the perception that has been spread by the American administration, and you have heard it from other experts in the past as well. But if you actually look at the situation between China and North Korea, well, China may not have anything to lose financially from stopping its patronage of the North Korean state. It certainly has a lot to lose, as Mr. Kim Jong-un just said, if North Korea were to collapse. And the other thing that China doesn't really want is how, let's look at it this way. China has actually tried to put pressure on North Korea in the past through various means, and has it actually led to a viable outcome? And many people think that it's because China really hasn't tried hard enough. But if you were to listen to the Chinese experts, they will tell you that, in fact, North Korea is this very interesting state that even though it is very small, and it is isolated, it is one that is not willing to listen to the opinion of anyone, even if it's of China that is its greatest patron.
Okay. Andrei, you would think that Russia's proximity to North Korea would have them perhaps be a little more forceful in this international dialogue about what they're doing with weapons. But Russia's been relatively silent. Why is that?
Because Russia's interest in North Korea are not that large. It will suffice to say that, Chinese trade with North Korea is roughly $6 billion a year. Russia's trade is roughly $80 million a year. That is actually more than 70 times difference. For Russia, it's not widely understood. North Korea is a rather marginal issue. Russian interests are the same, essentially, as interests of China. Like China, Russia would like to keep status quo. It's not happy about North Korea's nuclear program, but it would prefer to deal with a nuclear North Korea rather than with a collapsing, disintegrating North Korea.
So let me ask you
However,
this, though. Let me ask
Russia basically follows China.
Let me ask you, does Russia benefit in any way from the U.S. being a little off balance as it pertains to North Korea? Does Russia benefit in any way from this tension between North Korea and the U.S.?
Maybe it was fun to watch for people in the Kremlin, but Russia has not benefited, because in the end of the day, Russia wants stability and status quo. It doesn't want any change in the region, first. And Russia, being a nuclear country, a member of exclusive, highly privileged club of legally recognized nuclear powers, doesn't want proliferation. So Russia is not happy, but stakes are not high.
Se-Woong, does North Korea have the right to defend and protect and arm itself as any other country does?
Well, that is a very interesting point, and I'm very glad that you bring it up, because in fact, if you were to look at the international news coverage of North Korea, there seems to be this perception that North Korea must be stopped from developing its arsenal no matter what. But the fact of the matter is, North Korean regime may be an evil one, but it is a sovereign country, one that is entitled to have a weapons program. It will certainly not be the only country to have nuclear arms. So there is a lot of fuss being made about this progress in the nuclear or the arms program that North Korea has been conducting for some time. Everybody has known North Korea has been very determined to invest in this, and everybody knew that North Korea would make progress. So it is actually quite interesting that we are all sitting here discussing what's going to happen next, when in fact what has happened, the launch of intercontinental ballistic missiles and other threats to the region, these are things that we all could have predicted from many years ago. So that's an interesting thing to think about, actually.
Ken, what do you think motivates Kim Jong-Un? How would you characterize him as a leader?
I think Kim Jong-Un wants to succeed nuclear weapon at ICBM, and also he, as I mentioned earlier, he wants to make a negotiation between US and North Korea. And he controlled the North Korean civilians. First of all, I think he wants to release the North Korean economic sanction by the USA and UN. So yeah, that's the reason. That's the first reason. The other reason, as I mentioned, he extremely. I think Kim Jong-Un is really is extremely nervous North Korean defectors. What is different thing is between Kim Jong-Un and Kim Jong-il is Kim Jong-il didn't care about North Korean defector. I think around 1994 and 1996. But now Kim Jong-un is really nervous about North Korean defector, because there are, it's more than 30,000 North Korean defector in South Korea. Those people are testimony about North Korean bad happening in the world, even in front of UN. So he wants to avoid those testimony and to sticky North Korean civilians who live in North Korea. That's the aims for Kim Jong-un, I think.
Okay, and Ken, you will have the final word on this discussion, but certainly the discussion will continue, and we will call on all of you again for this. So thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Thanks to Ken Ohm, Andrei, Lankov, and Se-Woong, and thank you for watching as well. You can watch the program again anytime. If you visit our website, aljazeera.com. For further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Richelle, Carey, and the entire team. Bye for now.